good evening and welcome. Tonight we're going to be going over the history and geography of the Dominican Republic. But real quick, I want to say that tonight, as I'm recording this, I hit 200 subscribers and I'm really excited. So thank you so much, you guys. I'm really happy. Thank you again. I'm so happy. But let's just jump right in, you guys. The Dominican Republic is on the island of Hispaniola right here. I'm going to move this book out of the way for a minute. We're going to go through this book at the end of the video. After I go over history and geography, we'll flip through and look at the pictures and read little bits out of it. But Hispaniola, you can see here, also known as Quisqueya to some of the Dominicans, consists of two different countries on one island, Haiti and then the Dominican Republic that we're going to talk about tonight. I've already covered Haiti on my series. If I remember, I'll link it up there so you can check that out as well. A very interesting history about Haiti and very closely linked with the Dominican Republic. The Dominican Republic's capital is right here, Santo Domingo, which is also very important to its history. It'll come up a lot when we go through the history section. The Dominican Republic has some amazingly high mountains. It actually has the highest mountain in the Caribbean, which is Pico Duarte. You can see right there on the map, which is named after someone from the history of the Dominican Republic. You'll hear his name popped up. And also, the Dominican Republic is home to the lowest point in the Caribbean, which is this lake right here, Lake Rio, which is named after someone from its very ancient history, one of the Taino tribes people. Lake Rio is a saltwater lake, and it's actually growing. It has no tributaries, no kind of rivers or anything. So it's assumed that it's growing from like rainwater or something like that. And it's actually a problem. You can see it's really close to the border of Haiti, so it's actually flooded over some small villages, some roads leading into Haiti. It's swamped over some trees and things like that. So it's actually kind of a problem that lake is growing larger and larger. But what's really interesting is that these low points are so low that cactuses actually grow in this area down here in the Caribbean, believe it or not. But most of the lands here in the Dominican Republic are very lush green forested, as you can see on the cover of this book. Look at this beautiful waterfall. This is located on this peninsula right here on Samana. It's this point and this point down here are some of the most beautiful green areas of the Dominican Republic. This all right here is pretty much just all like a reserve, like forest area. Like these are people, and this is the waterfall. Isn't that gorgeous? And there's mountain ranges here and here. So all in the middle here, there's a beautiful long river, and the valley in here is where most of the farmland is. And it's lots of fruits like papayas and bananas, things like that. But historically, the Dominican Republic grows sugarcane and tobacco. Actually, the word tobacco is a Taino word. There's a lot of words that come from the Taino people, but tobacco is where, the word comes from this island, which is the word for the tobacco leaf. So that's where, tobacco that we know today comes from this island. Very interesting little factory there. Tourism is a big industry in the Dominican Republic, even today in 2020 when, tourism is such an issue as it is. People are still, the Dominican Republic is still encouraging people to come, under safe measures, of course, because the industry is so important to the island. And it is beautiful, especially Santo Domingo. You'll find out why, but there are the very old parts of Santo Domingo, especially the colonial zone, which we'll talk about in this video and in my upcoming UNESCO video. Which is why it's so important, not just to the history of the Dominican Republic, but to the history of the Americas and to the entire Western Hemisphere, and in that point, like the world, into like world history. The entire world changed on this island, and let's find out how that came to be. And let's turn back and talk about the Taino people. So they are a tribe of Arawak people who came from Venezuela, which you probably can't see, but like it's just due south from here is Venezuela in northern South America. They sailed right on up here. And the Arawak people are a native culture who moved into the islands of the Caribbean and sort of split off into their own tribes. So the Taino mostly inhabited this area, most famously Hispaniola. But another branch were the Caribs, where we get the name Caribbean, or Caribbean, however you want to pronounce it, which I mentioned in my last video about St. Lucia and in my Grenada video as well. So the Caribs were the more violent, angry people of the Caribbean. But it was the Taino that dominated this island from about 650 CE or so until 1492. From that period, they developed a thriving civilization on this island. It had developed into 5 different tribes. They had their own farming industries, fishing industries, their own rich cultures, traditions, intermarriages between the tribes. There were wars, just a whole thriving civilization upon this island. And they either called it Quisqueya or AD, kind of like either or, probably depending upon the tribe. But like I said, 1492, that December, Christopher Columbus arrived and changed the entire course of history. Originally, when he first landed, it was a friendly exchange between him and the peoples, but once he returned, it was definitely not a friendly exchange. Like I've said on my channel many times, this is a place of relaxation and education, and we all know Christopher Columbus was not the best guy in the world. There are so many videos out there about how he was just the worst, so this is not the time or place to get into how awful he truly was, so we're just going to skip that and move on to just focus on the Dominican Republic history. So we're going to skip right into 1496, when his brother Bartholomew Columbus founded the city of Santo Domingo. He founded it in order to find gold. So just to briefly touch on the horribleness of the Columbus family, they definitely utilized the Arawak people as slaves in the gold mines. And of course, the diseases they brought over completely devastated the Arawak tribes. So Spain, of course, saw a lot of profit here in the island for the gold mining industry. So they started importing kidnapped Africans in 1503. The very first Africans were brought over here. The very first brought into the New World, I should say, into the Western Hemisphere. And once they realized that gold would not be the big moneymaker on this island, they started bringing in sugarcane and building sugarcane plantations in 1516. And started bringing in a lot more slaves from Africa to replace the native peoples who had passed away and were all but wiped out by that point. Spain started moving on from Hispaniola. They had gotten Mexico, lots of other places in Central and South America that had a lot more opportunity for profit. So they'd kind of let this island go by the wayside. It was a good station, like a refueling point between Central and South America and Spain. And, there were plantations on this island, but that's all it was really good for. It eventually kind of was just a haven for piracy at that point. Lots of pirates overran the island. And, it was not such a great asset. And the French saw a lot of advantage in this island and started kind of sneaking on and building their own plantations on there. So in 1697, Spain and France signed the Treaty of Ryswick, and that allowed them to give them a part of the island that Spain wasn't really utilizing anyway, which was this western part. They really only wanted this part over here. And France hopped on right away and started building lots and lots of sugar plantations. And France made a lot of profit off of this island. This was a big, big, big money maker for them. They brought in lots and lots and lots of slaves to work on all of their plantations. And I think Spain was a little miffed about that. But that backfired on France in a big way. After the French Revolution in 1791, the slaves on this, they'd called this Santo Domingo, since the Spaniards were calling this Santo Domingo. The slaves in Santo Domingo revolted, led by a freed slave named Toussaint Louverture, who I have an entire video on. You guys can check that out if I remember to link it up there. And they were successful. It's the only country in the world that's founded by a successful slave revolt. Haiti. They renamed it after the old Taino name for the island. And I'm not going to go into the weird political details, mostly because it's really long and boring. But for a brief moment, Spain allowed France to take control of their part of the island. And the leaders of the slave revolt hopped on over to start the process of taking over. And the people of Santo Domingo were very shocked at the brutality of the leaders of the slave revolt, of their neighbors to the west. At that point, the leaders were Dessalines and Henri Christophe, who were both former slaves, of course, but were very vicious. Toussaint Louverture was more of like the upper crust of the slave community, I suppose. He was not very violent. He was very diplomatic, whereas Dessalines and Henri Christophe were very bloodthirsty and angry and were out for revenge. And Henri Christophe in particular went through the north and just slaughtered anyone he came across, no matter who it was, man, woman, or child, which, like I said, shocked people. And Dessalines was just, while he is considered the father of Haiti, he's the one that officially declared independence and named the country. He was also, like I said, very vicious and bloodthirsty. So the people here were very shocked and did not want these men running their country, so they rebelled against them and were successful and managed to give the country back into the control of Spain. But at the time, because now it's the early 1800s, at this time it was very fashionable for countries to embrace democracy and independence and constitutions written by, not monarchs, but the people, So in 1821, they declared independence and changed their name from Santo Domingo to Spanish Haiti. But that was extremely short-lived because a year later, in 1822, Haiti invaded. Their president at the time was named Jean-Jacques Boyer, who was just as cruel and bloodthirsty, and well, not quite bloodthirsty, I wouldn't say, but just as cruel, and very viciously invaded and took over the country. And now the entire island was just Haiti. And since they had declared independence, they didn't really have anyone to help them out. You know, they couldn't fall back onto Spain or anyone to help them. So they were officially Haiti, and they were stuck under their thumb. And, you know, it was more of an occupation than an assimilation into a country. It was very much, you know, the Haitians were, you know, more powerful than them. And in 1838, a secret society was founded. Originally, it was to get Spanish control back into their country, but over time, it was more of a pro-independence movement. And their leader was named Juan Pablo Duarte. I told you that name was going to come up. Eventually, they weren't the original founders, but alongside him were two other men named Francisco de Rosario Sanchez and Ramon Matias Melo, and they were the three founding fathers of Dominican independence. They rose up in January 1843, and they had helped the country declare independence in February 27th, 1844. And that is when this country officially became the Dominican Republic. They got a new, you know, constitution modeled after the American Constitution. It was the big first step in, you know, a country that looks like the country we know today. Now, the new government was in control, or I should say was led by, let me start that sentence over. The country was led by two men who had the same goal in mind: independence for the Dominican Republic and to keep the Haitians out. And they managed to do both of those things. They kept the Dominican Republic independent, and they repelled many different Haitian invasions. I won't even get started because there were many of them, and each time they kept the Haitians out. But these two men were named Pedro Santana and Buenaventura Baez. But pretty much in any other aspect, they had completely different ideals. They kind of were back and forth in a power exchange, a power battle. It was a lot of drama. It was a lot of historical tea, which we're not going to get into tonight because it, like I said, it was a lot of back and forth of one ousting the other, lots of coups, lots of elections where one got voted in, then it was a lot of back and forth. There were wars, there were conflicts. It's just, each one got multiple turns to be in power. And it was a lot. So just know that there were these two men who fought for control. And they both got control in a variety of ways. And the main thing is that, for the most part, the Dominican Republic, while fractured and barely holding on, it was still holding on. They were doing their best. It was a new country. It was a rough time, but they were doing it, you know. However, there was a brief hiccup in 1861 when Santana gave the country back to Spain as a colony. Obviously, the people did not want this. It led to a war called the War of Restoration. In 1865, it ended with a full independence. It ended the prospect of any kind of Spanish rule or any kind of outside rule forever. Kind of, you know, kept the lid on that. However, in 1868, the United States invaded. Started this whole drama. So, pirates were still a problem after all this time. Let me set my pencil down. It's slowly falling out of my hand. Pirates are still a problem after all this time. all this instability was going on, not just in the Dominican Republic, but in Haiti. If you've seen my Haiti video, if you think there was drama happening on this island, oh boy. Oh boy. So pirates are taking advantage of that and just camping out on here and raiding any kind of U.S. ship going through the Caribbean. And the United States were getting tired of it, so they decided to go to the source of the problem and put a stop to it. So they invaded the Dominican Republic. Now, Baez was in control at this time, and he kind of saw this as an opportunity because the country was very deeply in debt. And he said, you know, while you're here, why don't I just sell you the country? And the president at this time was Ulysses S. Grant, and he said, you know what? That's not a bad idea because it's not bad real estate. We could build some forts on this island. Not to mention, we just had a civil war that ended with a lot of freed slaves. And a lot of people on this island are descended from Africa, and a lot of people in our country are descended from Africa. Maybe some of the people in our land can move on to this land. Which sounds a little much nowadays, but it was an idea he had apparently tossed out there. This concept went to the United States Senate and failed, so the United States did not purchase the Dominican Republic. Obviously, the concept of the United States invading was not very popular, nor would it ever be popular, especially when it happened again in 1916. So the Dominican Republic and the United States held close ties for a variety of reasons. The main one being that the Dominican Republic exported most of its goods to the United States, mainly, sugar, tobacco. All of their big exports mostly went to the United States. Teddy Roosevelt, the president in the early 1900s, had a big investment in the Panama Canal and wanted to keep the peace on any country between him and the Panama Canal, since the United States technically owned it. Technically, the United States owned it. So, he kept on friendly terms with everyone in between the United States and Panama. What else? There were a lot of reasons. And also the United States just threatened them, because during all of that time there was still a lot of political turmoil, and the United States told them, literally threatened them, saying, if you continue to have this turmoil because we do so much business with you, we will invade and occupy you and fix all your problems, and we will stay until all the problems are fixed. And, the problems weren't fixed, so the United States came and invaded. And this was very deeply unpopular, not just with the Dominicans, but with the American people as well. But definitely with the Dominicans, because, the Americans did fix the infrastructure and a lot of the political problems, and they stayed until 1922, when a new president had been elected. They were sure that everything was much better, but in the process of doing that, they killed many Dominican civilians. It was horrific, and a lot of guerrilla groups sprung up to fight back against them. And of course, American soldiers didn't hesitate to fight back, and it was just a big mess. It was awful. Pretty much any time that I won't get into it. I'm not going to insert any opinions like that. But during this time, a young man joined the military and was trained to fight by these U.S. soldiers. And his name was Rafael Trujillo. And his time in the military really inspired him to have a strong military presence leading the country. And he knew he was the one to do it. So in 1930, he, with the help of the military and the help of the rebels, all joined together, ensured that not only would everyone only vote for him, but all of his opponents would not be able to run against him. So he would be guaranteed to win the election. And of course he did. He, sabotaged the whole election so that he would win. And he would go on to become a horrifying dictator for the next 30-odd years in the Dominican Republic. And like I said, this is a relaxation channel. I won't go into the horrifying details, but it is important to know, since many people don't know. And I think that's just because, this was an era of dictators suddenly popping up, I believe. The United States, like I said, was very friendly with the Dominican Republic, and they were very friendly with Trujillo. I think the reason they didn't do anything about him for so long was that there were just a lot of other dictators at this time that they were much more worried about. The 1940s, there were a lot more dictators that they were worried about. In the 1950s, there were some other dictators that they were greatly worried about. And it wasn't until 1961 when they went, wait a minute, there's like a horrific dictator right outside of our door that we've been supporting this whole time. And people kind of took a step back and realized what he had done. I mean, not only had he renamed the capital like Trujillo City and renamed the mountain like Trujillo Mountain, to name a few. Probably one of the most terrifying things he had done was he had ordered, I hate to say it, but he had ordered the death of many Haitians that lived on the Dominican side of the border, and tens of thousands of Haitians lost their lives overnight. A very brutal slaughter. Not to mention all of the tens of thousands of Dominicans who opposed Trujillo, fought back against Trujillo, slightly disagreed with Trujillo. He was a very cruel dictator. He was I'm not going to get into any gory details, but he was a very brutal, awful human being. So with the help of the United States government and the rebels on the island, he was assassinated on May 30th, 1961. And another president was elected, but he was removed from office by another rebel group, and the United States was suddenly very worried that there's the possibility that communism could take over this island. I mean, Cuba is right here, after all. So they invaded once again, much to the displeasure of the Dominicans again, just to ensure that there was no communist presence on the island. They only stayed for about a year until another president was elected. However, this president, Joaquin Balaguer, was one of Trujillo's best friends. He was basically a puppet president, even though Trujillo was no longer alive to pull the strings. And, he ran on a platform that he was anti-Trujillo and he learned the error of his ways, but pretty much continued most of his policies just without the cruelty. And he stayed in power for quite a long time. He managed to get reelected multiple times, and it wasn't until 1996 that the Dominican Republic had its first non-pro-Trujillo president, and that was Leonel Fernandez. And probably the most interesting thing that he did during his presidency was build the only metro line in Santo Domingo in 2009. So they have like a underground train station, like a subway station. And they actually just had a presidential election this year. It's 2020. I'm filming this, so a few months ago, they elected a new president named Luis Abinader in July 2020. And very sadly, the most recent big political news that's gone on was in 2013. A new law was passed when they amended the Constitution to change the citizenship laws because, like in the United States, the old law was that if you were born in the Dominican Republic, you were Dominican, but they changed the laws, and it changed the citizenship of a lot of people of Haitian descent. Even though they were born in the Dominican Republic, it made them stateless. And the process of becoming a Dominican citizen was extremely complicated, and there are still tens of thousands of people of Haitian descent who were born in the Dominican Republic who are, still without a country. And it still goes back to Trujillo's time. He was extremely anti-Haitian, as you know from that. It all stems back from his policy, sadly. So that's still an issue that's ongoing. It's really sad. And there's actually a little bit of it in this book, and a few of the other books that I'm going to show you throughout this week. So, but regardless, that is the history and geography of the Dominican Republic. So, without further ado, I want to show you some of the pictures in this book. Let's get going. Let's see. I was definitely the first person to check out this book from my library. And not because no one's interested, it's because it's literally like a brand new. This book came out in 2019. I had to crack the spine open when I first opened it. I felt bad. But yeah, so Quisqueya, the original name of the island. That beautiful. Gorgeous beaches and bridges. So these little islands are going to be tourist spots, but they were never built, so these are the bridges to nowhere. Isn't that beautiful? Here's another little map, a political map of the Dominican Republic. You can see some of the national parks on there. Look at this gorgeous beach. Move this, hold on. There we go. Have to be careful, this big old atlas. I don't want it to fall. Okay. This is Juan Pablo Duarte. And here's that beautiful waterfall from the cover. This is gonna fall. Let's get it okay. I just have to hold this up. There we go. The Amber Coast. It says the northern coast of the Dominican Republic is often called the Amber Coast. The I forgot to say longest river. The Yaqueante Norte River is the longest river. Here's a picture of the lake I was telling you about that's growing. So this is what's happening to the trees in the lake that's growing. And here's some of the cactus in the low points that grows. And here's a physical map so you can really see some of the low areas here. And here you can see this beautiful valley, the Cibao Valley, where all the farmland is. Look at this beach, isn't that gorgeous? And the Dominican Republic is prone to hurricanes. I think it's on the next page, yeah. Some major hurricanes have hit the island before. This is a picture of the 1930 hurricane San Zenon, where pretty much all of Santo Domingo was destroyed. It's a picture of slide this over, rhinoceros iguana. Look at some of the plants and wildlife. Look how beautiful that forest is. There is a big deforestation problem on the island, so there's a big focus on preserving the national parks. Look how beautiful this is. Some of this little bird. The mango trees over here, growing in the swamps. And then, of course, the beautiful ocean life that's so characteristic of the Caribbean. And the national bird, the palm jet. It's a bird that only exists on Hispaniola. The mongoose. So the Spaniards brought over mongooses. It's surely not mongooses to fight off some of the pests on the island. And then, of course, their population got out of control, so now they're the pests on the island. And then, of course, mangoes. Can't go to the Caribbean and not have mangoes. Look at this. So this is an old fort, obviously. And this was built to fight off the pirates. Look at this water. Whoa, makes you want to go swimming so bad. Look at these old Taino relics. This is a ceremonial seat called a tuo, it says. Here's some of the, there we go, beautiful cave paintings from the Taino people. Some of the papayas, like I said, they actually had a farming industry. Like, they didn't just farm, they had a farming industry. So here you can see some of Christopher Columbus's explorations. You can see the first town he founded, La Navidad, which failed. Oop, there we go, La Navidad. Everyone in that colony died. They were killed by the natives. So then he founded La Isabela, which is now Puerto Plata. And then his brother founded Santo Domingo. And here is the palace of Diego Columbus, which was his son. And this is actually, this is Bobadilla, who came after Columbus. This is, when Bobadilla arrived, he arrested Columbus because apparently he was treating the natives too cruelly, which we all know is very true. He had him arrested and sent back to Spain. And then Bobadilla promptly went on to treat the natives even worse than Columbus. Like, far worse. Oh, so I left this out of the history. The British had a brief moment. This is Sir Francis Drake. They had a brief moment where they were like, why don't we conquer Santo Domingo? And then they failed and went like, oh well, and moved on. It was like, no biggie, whatever. We tried, we failed, whatever. But the Spanish, like, reveled in this because some of their most famous losses were to the British. And they, like, lorded it over, like, what the British attempted to invade, and they failed. And, like, okay, like, calm down. So this is the result of the Treaty of Ryswick. You can see the territory that the French got from the treaty, and their capital, Cap Français. And, of course, this land would later become Haiti after the slave revolt. And this is Toussaint Louverture, the great hero of the Haitian Revolution. These are the American soldiers during the occupation in 1919. Now this is Fabio Fiallo. He was the mayor of Santo Domingo during the American occupation in the early 1900s. He was very much against it, very much outspoken against it, and he was arrested and kicked out of the country and moved to Cuba, where he lived the rest of his life. Very sad about it. This is Rafael Trujillo, very evil person. Squeaky chair, sorry. And here's a memorial for the Haitians at the border here that were massacred by him. This is a protest for Joaquin Balaguer. It says 1961, so I think it was probably for a re-election. I think, I'm not sure. This is the U.S. invasion, more like an occupation during 1965. Oh, it says the invasion. Same difference. And this is the construction of the subway system that opened in 2009. Let's see, these are the Presidential Guard. Very spiffy looking. Let's see, oh, look at the Dominican flag. Let's read this. So it says, the flag of the Dominican Republic shows 4 rectangles, 2 red and 2 blue, with a white cross separating them. Blue represents liberty, Red stands for the blood of the heroes who died preserving liberty. The white cross is a symbol of salvation. In the center of the cross is the nation's coat of arms, which includes a shield, a symbol of strength, with 6 spears representing protection. The coat of arms is decorated in the national colors and bears images of the Bible, a gold cross, a laurel branch, and a palm frond. A blue banner above the shield declares the national motto, gosh, sorry, I'm Californian, declares the national motto, Dios, Patria, Libertad, God, Home, Liberty. A red banner below holds the nation's name, República Dominicana. Turn this. Let's see the National Palace. Let me go quick. Let me just show you the interesting pictures. There's a lot of like here's a picture of a person voting. Like, let me just find the good pictures. Look at all these bananas. Yoga on the beach. Like I said, it's a big tourist industry. Oh, this is interesting. Well, I mean the sugar cane. That's very interesting. But this is Larmar, which is a stone that's only found in the Dominican Republic. I think there's only like one volcano you can find it in the entire world, and you can only find it in the Dominican Republic. Isn't it beautiful? It looks like the ocean in the Caribbean. It's so lovely. And then, of course, tobacco, because it comes from this island. This is the currency, Dominican peso. Look how pretty. Reminds me of how I do my makeup when I was a teenager. Let me see. This is the, I was telling you about the new citizenship rules. Her sign says, I am Dominican. Soy Dominicano. Oh, so a lot of Dominicans immigrated to the United States during Trujillo's rule. This is actually a picture from New York City on Dominican Day. They have a big parade with all the Dominicans that live there in the United States. Let's see, what else? Traditions. Oh, this church is so beautiful. So there is, of course, being of Spanish heritage, a huge Roman Catholic population in the Dominican Republic. And this church is just so gorgeous. Look at that. It's the Cathedral of Our Lady of Altagracia. Absolutely gorgeous. And of course, voodoo is still practiced on the island, being a religion of like a mixture of African traditions and Roman Catholicism. He looks jolly. Oscar de la Renta. I have to mention, one of the most amazing dressmakers in the whole wide world who have ever lived. He's from the Dominican Republic. Juan Bosch was elected after, like immediately after Rafael Trujillo. Let's see, what else? There's some good book sounds. Okay. Look at this, she's dancing on a bottle. How amazing is that? Baseball is the most beloved sport in the Dominican Republic, and some of the most famous baseball players have come from there, including David Ortiz. Look at this water. I bet that feels amazing. Oh, sweet. Grandpa and grandson. Let's see. I love Domino's. Look, this is Santa in the Dominican Republic. Carnival mask. I think that's it. I think those were the only pictures I wanted to show you. My phone says it's dying, so I want to wrap this up. So, that was the Dominican Republic, and I have so many cool videos to show you this week about the Dominican Republic, so There's so much more to show you. I can't wait. So thank you so much for watching, and do subscribe so you can see all the other cool books and videos about the Dominican Republic I have in store for you. They're really, really awesome and really tingly. I can't wait. I'm going to whisper some of them to you. So please subscribe, give a like if you're still awake, and thank you for watching.